Hello everyone, this is part 29 of What If Naruto was sealed because he was too powerful, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Sasuke stared at Orochimaru impassively as he held his jutsu puncturing the man's arms that he had placed up as a defense. Orochimaru, you're weaker than me. There's no point in my body to you anymore. Big words from the leftover Uchiha. Orochimaru taunted as he glared dangerously at Sasuke, his own bee staining his face. Sasuke smirked, if I hadn't been so weak I never would have come to you in the first place, now would I? The only reason you wanted me was because you couldn't take Itachi, right Mr. Sanin? The world might have considered you a genius, but you're nowhere near the level of an Uchiha. Before us, the greatest genius in the universe barely comes off as average. Orochimaru laughed maliciously, the only thing you're good for are your eyes, boy. If you truly believe that you're my equal, then go back and fight Naruto-kun again and prove your skill. Oh, that's right, you lost to him once and ran away from him without even fighting the second time. My eyes, huh? Sasuke said, narrowing his eyes at Orochimaru's jab at him. As someone that carries the famous name Uchiha, from my point of view your attempts to obtain our power are so disgusting they're almost funny. The way you keep saturating yourself with drugs and switching your methods are pointless. Do you even have a true goal anymore? You claim to seek the reason behind existence, and yet all you do is make petty attempts to play God with people's lives. He drew his sword. You sicken me. He moved in at the disabled Orochimaru to finish him off with his blade. However, when he got close, the snake-summoning shinobi opened his mouth as a long white figure burst from his body that turned out to be a massive white snake comprised of smaller white snakes. Sasuke turned around and faced off with the grotesque figure. So your true form is a scaly white serpent. You experimented on your own body because you wanted to take over others so badly, and now you're a pathetic shell of your former self. Sasuke-kun, Orochimaru hissed threateningly, give me your body. He dove at Sasuke as the young Uchiha jumped over his first attack, allowing the bed Orochimaru had been in to be rended to splinters. Some of the smaller snakes lunged at the airborne Sasuke, however he see through them and slid along the ground upon landing, his back against a wall. Orochimaru turned on him with a hiss and sent an entire wave of snakes at Sasuke as an attack. Sasuke immediately pulled the top of his shirt back, freeing his upper body and activated the level 2 transformation of his cursed seal. Though the snake dreams of soaring through the sky, it is forever doomed to crawl on its belly. Sasuke was surrounded and engulfed by the attack as his skin color turned dark brown and the star marking appeared on his face. But immediately upon being overwhelmed, the snakes exploded in V, revealing the fully transformed Sasuke, complete with his wing-like hands fully grown from his back. You'll have your chance to fly, snake, in the talons of a hawk. Orochimaru simply lunged at his young quarry once more. Sasuke. XXX. With Naruto and company. Naruto, Maki, and Sai stood back to back as all of the shinobi of the Prajna group were radiating K intent. So, Naruto said, directing his eyes at Maki, if me and Sai were to break out of this and get some space away from these guys, could you keep up with us? Don't patronize me, senpai. Maki said with some aggravation in her voice, if you're going to go then go. I wouldn't be here if I couldn't keep up. With that, all three teens utilized their own shunshin to escape being boxed in by the enemy. Naruto in a gusty cyclone, Sai in a swirl of ink, and Maki in a burst of light. The Prajna group shinobi all turned to pursue the split-up force of 3 root ninja, however a trio of kunai corralled 4 of them, separating them from their comrades who ran off into the forest to chase the younger opponents who threw the weapons. Raiten, Denkai, lightning release, electric field. A dome of electricity formed around the grounded kunai that trapped the 4 separated Prajna ninja. Checkmate, Raiten, Denki Hokai, lightning release, electric implosion. The electric prison brightened and began crackling loudly before the entire dome receded, revealing the burned, blackened remains of the 4 men. Naruto appeared from a hiding place and confirmed his you all shouldn't have made that so personal. Missions with more destruction are carried out all the time for stupider reasons. You shouldn't have allowed it to consume you. With as many of you as there were left, you all should have tried to simply live instead of trying to take revenge against us. He stood up, shaking his head. Us wouldn't have done anything anyway. So long as there is light, erasing shadows will do no good. 4 more down, 13 to go. He took off back into the woods to assist the rest of his team. XXX. With Sai, the 7 Prajna group ninja bearing down on Sai turned their long kunai downwards and leapt through the air, 3 landing in front of him to see him off, 4 landing behind him, and all impaled him with their kunai. The twisted look of pain on Sai's face began to melt as he turned to ink, revealing himself to be an ink clone. Sumi Nagashi, ink flush. From the ground, ink snakes formed and caught the men around their legs and arms, trapping them from using their kunai to escape. Now then, Chuju Giga, Super Beast's imitation picture. A roar from an area of surrounding trees preceded a group of 3 ink lions coming from the woods intent on attacking the trapped men. 2 of them were able to get loose, freeing their arms enough to see themselves loose. However, their comrades were not so lucky, as they wound up being caught and brutally mauled by the lions. 2 men were as the lions went right for their tea and ended it there, while the 3rd lion began clawing and biting at the other trapped men, wounding them too heavily to allow them to keep fighting. One of the wounded had the bone of their arm around the elbow exposed from the attack. The 2 able B Prajna group members took advantage of their partners distracting the lions with their own B to see them down. However, this allowed Sai to move from the shadows and see one of them down with his tanto. The other man angrily attacked Sai with his elongated kunai that was blocked by the pale teen, Su root S. For all of my comrades. He attempted to poke Sai in his vulnerable eyes while they were up close and wound up getting his 2 fingers blocked down the middle by the back knife edge of Sai's hand. You probably don't even feel anything. That's not true. Sai stressed plainly, moving his own hand so that he could grasp a hold of the man's extended fingers and quickly break them, allowing him to power through the man's weaponized attack and see into the side of the masked man's, K him and dropping him to the ground in a heap. I feel annoyance for having my team be sidetracked by you. With that, he looked back at the men that were still wounded and let out a sigh. They weren't going to be able to get anyone to treat their wounds. One of them had the guts falling out a belly wound for Kami's sake. Sai walked over to them with his tanto still brandished. I am sorry for your misfortune. I would not have KU had you not attacked my team, but my mission is to protect Naruto-senpai from all threats, and you are threats. He lifted his tanto overhead and began finishing them off. XXX. With Maki. Maki was actually very fast, faster than Sai on foot truthfully. The trouble they had in catching up to her forced the 6 attacking Prajna group members to split up, half to continue the pursuit, the other half to find a way to see her off. Eventually this plan seemed to work as they found themselves gaining on the girl who looked back over her shoulder at them as she continued to run away through the elevated branches of the woods. A sun glare through the treetops hit them in the face and almost immediately it appeared that Maki had been rejoined by Naruto and Sai as they were all running side by side in the same direction in front of them. Seeing all 3 in one place inspired the pursuit team of 3 to push harder and catch the seemingly slower group all at once, which they did. Attempting to finish them off from behind, all 3 turned in the air and blocked the strikes before they all fell to the ground and rolled, breaking away to a standoff against each other, 3 on 3 with blades all drawn, staring at each other, although for some reason the Root kids had looks of fear and confusion on their faces. What the hell are you doing? Naruto yelled at him, what's your problem? Our problem is you 3 brats. One of the Prajna group yelled, everything that we've been through is your fault and now you're all going to S out here. With that, the 2 groups began fighting one another, though one side seemed rather reluctant to do so. XXX. Maki moved back through the foliage as she heard the sounds of the fighting ringing out, Watashi no Yujin no Teki, enemy of my friend. Her genjutsu was used to fool the lagging pursuit force into thinking that their faster allies that had broken off and tried chasing her from the side was herself, Naruto, and Sai, allowing her to escape undetected. If everything worked out properly they would K each other and she wouldn't even need to draw her sword. Maybe she could use this as an opportunity to find Sai and Naruto. Raiten, Kaksen no Jutsu, Lightning Release, Livewire Jutsu. Visible lines of electricity flew over the ground towards the clashing Prajna group fighters, catching the enchanted members of the group off guard, something that was also fatal for their other partners as they were in direct contact with them. The jutsu hit them and them all, finishing them off as Naruto and Sai landed nearby, and that's 17 of 17. Maki. He called out, that's all of them, you can come out. Maki did as instructed and looked over at the corpses of the deceased assailants. You could have been more subtle about it, Naruto-senpai. She said, almost pouting at how he finished things off. I put all of that effort into constructing that genjutsu for them to do damage to themselves and you just swoop in and take them out while they're not looking. She crossed her arms over her sea, no respect for the more restrained shinobi arts. Same as always. A small smile came to her lips. Naruto shook his head as he confirmed the K, only a root ninja would be able to smile at me after we just got through doing something like this, he said, though a smile of his own started peeking through, actually not really, because he's not smiling about anything. He finished, pointing at Sai. Should we begin traveling faster now, Naruto-senpai? Sai asked, prepared to draw a bird or two to fly them away, or would you like to risk being attacked again by random enemies? Naruto gave Sai a dry look. Again, we're going all over the Hi-no-Kuni countryside to get to the east coast. The entire point of this is to not get caught moving around by anyone so that no one knows where we are. You can fly when we get to the coast, maybe. He looked between Sai and Maki. Is anyone hurt? Tired? Anything? Both shook their heads in the negative. Well then let's get moving again. The team took off through the woods following behind Naruto as Maki eventually decided to ask a question. So Naruto-senpai, where is it that you want us to head to? Any destination on the coast in particular? Naruto nodded. Yeah, we're going to Nami no Kuni since Sai doesn't have the chakra to have his creatures take us all the way across the ocean straight out from here. He furrowed his brow at that point. Maybe I should call Hamako-chan too. While we're there in Nami no Kuni, there might be something in Azushiogaku that we missed in our combination of bad to worse situations or something that she wants. Sai almost felt like cringing at the memory of the incident. Are we going to have to fall off of a building into a whirlpool or fight another giant statue and Akatsuki members? He asked. Kami, I hope not, Naruto said in response. Don't even make jokes like that, Saikuhai. It's hard to tell if you're serious or not and I don't need you jinxing us. Maki raised a delicate eyebrow in interest. I'm going to see your ancestral home. You're actually going to show it to me? Naruto nodded and grinned back at her. Well, you were going to see it eventually if I remained en route, so why not show you now? My life is in your hands and yours is in mine. We should be able to trust each other. He turned back ahead, and continued to lead, and I trust you, Maki. I always did. Gray eyes looked at Naruto's back before a smile came to Maki's face. Before she could say anything to Naruto, Sai abruptly spoke. I trust you as well, Maki-san. Maki blinked in confusion before responding, thank you, Sai-senpai. XXX. Sasuke vs. Orochimaru. Sasuke stood over the segmented body of Orochimaru's serpent form as he allowed his cursed seal level 2 form to recede. That was too easy. He said to no one in particular, I guess it's time to go get Sugetsu now. As he turned to leave, he doubled over as a sudden foreign feeling entered his system. Finally feeling the effects are we. Orochimaru said as his body reformed and he rose back up. The fumes of these white snakes can even taint the air with their paralyzing venom. Sasuke took note of the horrid stench that came from the beast staining the floor. I am you, and you're just a whelp with jutsu too weak to me, and now you're mine. He dove at Sasuke and swallowed him whole just as he activated his Sharingan. Instead of finding himself in Orochimaru's stomach, he found himself in some wide area with walls that seemed an eternity away and AF floor. What is this place? An alternate dimension inside of me. Orochimaru said as his form emerged from the F-covered floor, and the place where I carry out my soul transfer ritual. It has already begun. Snakes began emerging from the ground and began immersing Sasuke among them. He looked around and saw the of others. Orochimaru grinned victoriously as Sasuke became less and less visible within the F-cocoon that his ritual was creating. Sasuke, however, was still as calm as ever, his Sharingan active and seemingly staring a hole right through him. He could feel himself caught in a paralysis genjutsu. It's happening again. Just like before, he thought, getting more and more excited at the prospect of taking Sasuke's body to the point of laughing maniacally. Those eyes will be mine. He moved towards Sasuke and began merging until Sasuke effortlessly broke free of his bonds, still with an impassive look on his face. This can't be happening. I created this dimension, there's no way. This can't be, this is my. Sasuke see him off coldly, Orochimaru against my eyes, none of your jutsu, he stopped and let out a short laugh, actually you know the rest. After all, you've heard it before. The entire dimension began to collapse around them both, even Orochimaru himself found himself being eaten away at. I refuse to let this happen. I will not here. I am Orochimaru. I am immortal, destined to discover the true meaning behind everything, to take control of everything in the world. He roared at Sasuke as the entire dimension went dark. XXX. The sounds of combat from Orochimaru's room stopped. After a few moments of no sound whatsoever, Suigetsu peeked his head into the room and saw Sasuke standing over the corpse of Orochimaru's serpent form. Yo, is it over? Sasuke didn't answer, and after getting fed up with the silence he walked into the room, not really caring one way or the other. Yeah, it's over. It looks over, he said, stepping over Orochimaru's body. Kabuto appeared at the doorway and looking into the room, stunned into silence before Sasuke and Suigetsu left, Suigetsu taking the stunned look on Kabuto's face with much humor. As they began walking away down the hall, he had to ask the question he had running through his head, which one are you? Sasuke and Suigetsu stopped, both turning around with smirks on their faces as Sasuke spoke. Which one do you think? Sasuke used his Sharingan to place Kabuto in a genjutsu and replay the scenes of the conflict. Kabuto stepped back in abject horror. Orochimaru-sama is S. He then looked intently at Sasuke. No, it's more like I've taken over. Sasuke finished for him as he continued to walk away alongside Suigetsu. Suigetsu had thought about Kabuto for keeping him trapped in that tank for so long, but figured that he would be nothing more than a simpering mark on his own. Without Orochimaru, he would be swallowed up by the multiple enemies he had made since becoming Orochimaru's right-hand man. With that in mind, he spoke to Sasuke. So what's next? Where are we going now? We need to get 2 more people. Sasuke answered him, Juugo in the north and Karin in the south. Mayor, Suigetsu mumbled in complaint, do we have 2? I kind of can't stand those 2, I don't think we'll ever get along. Sasuke scoffed and narrowed his eyes, I just need the 3 of you to cooperate. I don't need you to like each other. Suigetsu rolled his eyes, well, you did save me, so I guess if that's what you want I'll go along with it. But why them? What do you think of them? They need to learn how to shut up. Sasuke said plainly, just like someone else I'm speaking to at the moment. Suigetsu laughed slightly before suddenly appearing behind Sasuke with a finger to the side of his head. Alright leader boy, let's get a few things straight. You're not in charge because you took Orochimaru down. Everyone was after him, and the way that they kept moving me when that squad of Konoha Anbu kept finding us told me that he didn't have that much time left anyway. You taking him down is just a result of you having damn near unlimited free swings at him. You could pick your shot at any time. What's your point? Sasuke asked impatiently. Suigetsu stared at Sasuke, who seemed to not be able to care any less about his predicament. I'm just kidding. Man, your heart rate didn't even change. That's enough for me, that win was no fluke. He stepped away from Sasuke. I've always heard rumors about how strong you were. Your squad beat my old senpai Zabuza, didn't they? But can I make a quick detour? There's somewhere I want to go before we get the others. XXX. 2 days later, Konohagakure no Sato. Jiraiya sat comfortably in the living room of Naruto's new home that he had yet to see yet. He had to say, Hamiko had actually done a fantastic job in picking it out, and furbishing it as well. It was a very comfortable atmosphere to say the least. Of course that was probably because the perpetual ball of energy and kinetic motion Naruto was currently out. A semicircle of large couches sat in a pit-like living room that was well lit. There would probably have been way more things than the few knickknacks and things that came from the old apartment, but she was probably waiting on him to get back before filling the place up. Oh, he would have loved the place. It was built on the side of the Hokage Monument Mountain with a groove see out by Earth Ninjutsu specialists. The entrance to the place was on the top of the mountain and descended to the actual building. He was sure that the vast majority of his bounty check and a few of his A-rank mission payments that he never spent went into the place, but it was worth it to the old toad sage. Maybe when the kid came back he could convince him to let him get a room. Yes, that would work. The kid would have to let his poor old handicapped sensei stay with him, wouldn't he? I hope that the tea is not too strong or hot for your tea, Jiraiya-sama. Hamiko called out as she entered the room and set down a tray of tea with 2 cups on the coffee table in front of the couch. How are your injuries? Jiraiya smiled gratefully as the girl poured him a drink. He spoke in a raspy, soft voice, it should be fine. And I'm not so I can't really complain about my wounds, they'll heal, I'll miss the arm though. He fake sniffled, I miss that sweet arm of mine. Hamiko giggled and handed him his tea. Well, it's nice to hear that Naruto-sama's sensei is alright. I have asked you here for another reason though. She said as she took a seat nearby. He's worried about fighting the person that defeated both of you. He says that the 4 tails of the Kyuubi's chakra he can draw on won't be enough to beat this pain. I'm supposed to ask you about any way he can find to access more, because he cannot control any more than he currently has been using. She took a sip and narrowed her eyes at him. Also know that loosening his seal is not an answer, that was a terrible idea, Jiraiya-sama. Jiraiya gave a look at Hamiko. Hindsight is 20/20, I knew that roughly a day after I did it, but I couldn't tighten it back up, even with the key. The key? Hamiko said in thought as she took another sip. What exactly is the key, Jiraiya-sama? I know that there is one, but I don't know anything more than that. She frowned cutely. It's puzzling, that I do not know about this key, when Naruto-sama's seal itself is so heavily based off of Azushi-Ogaku sealing styles. I cannot duplicate it even if I thought it would be a good idea to do so. Jiraiya chuckled hoarsely with his injured tea and took a sip of his own tea before speaking. Well, I didn't design it, as I'm sure you know. Do you know of Naruto's lineage? Hamiko nodded. Of course you do. There's no way he would have failed to mention that to you. Well, Minato was actually better than me at Fuinjutsu, he was closer to your level, beyond you I would say. Hamiko simply smiled at him. Are you admitting I'm better than you? She let out a short laugh when Jiraiya glowered at her. I'm not surprised that Yondaime-sama was better than me. Master's seal is incredible. It used to be my favorite thing to do, to just examine it until I learned all that I could from it. She noticed Jiraiya writing something down in a notebook that suddenly appeared on his lap. Really? You're recording this? Jiraiya nodded with a lecherous grin on his face. The Gaki has been a treasure trove of potential research since the day I've met him. That, examining his seal, thing has tons of potential in my next book. Hamiko's eye twitched, but she had to be a good host to her master's master. Aha, well, what do you surmise we should do? Master's coded description of the small conflict with pain and what you've told me has me somewhat concerned. Jiraiya's expression turned serious. After I've fully recovered, I'm going to find Naruto and have him proceed with the final thing I have to truly teach him. After this he truly will not need me anymore, for anything. We have the information necessary to beat pain. I learned his secret during the fight and gave it to Tsunade. The body I brought has also been analyzed. All there is to do now is to tell Naruto himself and get him ready. He won't lose again. His eyes widened when he saw Hamiko pull down the shoulder of one side of her kimono. She ran her fingers over the tattoo she used to communicate with Naruto and looked up at Jiraiya. I can give Naruto-sama this information now if you'll relay it through me. She narrowed her eyes when she noticed Jiraiya leering at her more exposed cleavage. Jiraiya-sama. Ha, he replied intelligently before realizing that he had been caught staring. He regained his composure before speaking. You know, dear, technically you're closer to my age than the Gakis. Why not spend some time with me and we can reminisce over the good old days? He finished, wagging his eyebrows at her. She gave him a dry look that lasted over a minute before speaking. There are so many reasons why I'm upset with what you just said, but there's really not much that I can do to you even with you missing an arm, so I'm telling Naruto-sama you said that and he can deal with you when he gets home. As she began to channel chakra to her seal, she smirked when she saw Jiraiya's face pale. XXX. Nami no Kuni, Great Naruto Bridge. Sasuke and Sugetsu stood on the mainland just before getting onto the bridge. It would have been a rush of nostalgia for Sasuke had he not seen what the bridge was called. Actually seeing it made him want to laugh a bit. Sugetsu noticed the young Uchiha staring intently at the name of the bridge and spoke after taking a sip from a bottle of water. So what do you think, Sasuke? Sasuke smirked and walked along the bridge. I don't think I care. Now let's get moving. XXX. Zabuza and Haku's grave site. Two simple unmarked graves were the only indicators of any importance to the area of the hill overlooking the Great Naruto Bridge. One of the graves had a massive cleaver behind it with a circle and a semicircle C into it. I never thought it would be all the way out here. Sugetsu said as he walked over to the sword and grabbed a hold of it. I'll be taking that Zabuza-senpai. He freed it from the ground and held it in a battle stance, the blade once wielded by the demon of the mist, Zabuza Momoki. Man, it's heavy. Sasuke watched as Sugetsu set it back into the ground and fixed a strap around it and unscrewed the long handle of the sword. And you? Can you actually use that thing? Sugetsu smirked. The swords used by the 7 swordsmen of the mist are passed down from one generation to the next. I trained Maya off to be able to stand among them. With a weapon like this I could probably beat even you. He shrugged and threw it over his back. Well, since Juugo's going to be joining us, I figured I might need it. Sasuke had an amused look on his face. Well, let's go. I've got what I came for. We're still going south, right? Yep, Sasuke said as he turned to leave the gravesite. Come on. We've still got a lot of ground to cover. XXX. Nami no Kuni, with Naruto, Sai, and Maki. Naruto hadn't stopped in to see Inari, Tazuna, and Tsunami this time around in this country because it was really better that less people knew where he was and how to find him. Thus, Naruto and his fellow route teens simply took to walking their way through the countryside with Naruto leading them. A quick run-through of Azuchiogakure on the north side of the nation led to them finding nothing and wasting a day, which prompted Naruto to have them hustle to the eastern port, the closest one in the direction of Mizu no Kuni, so that Sai could fly them there. Of course, the most famous port was the once little town near the home of Tazuna, and this led to Maki having many questions for him. So you beat Zabuza Momoki as a genin? Even as your stupid self? Hey, Naruto said defensively as he and his team walked through the village heading to the port, and Kakashi-sensei beat Zabuza, I beat Haku. For having all of my skills locked up I was still better than most genin. Not me. Maki replied cheerfully, I would have been in that Chunin exam that year with you too, but my team wasn't that good. She lifted her arm and made a fist at him. If I had been in that Chunin exam I would have gone right after you because I would have been allowed to legally beat you up. I really disliked the sealed version of you. It made me so angry to see you like that. She shook her head pitifully. I've said it before, you have no idea how much I missed you, senpai. Naruto grinned at her. Sorry for almost S Maki-chan. I got sealed, but wouldn't you have been more upset if I had S? She crossed her arms across her C and looked down. I should have been there, I could have helped you. You would have been K. Naruto asserted firmly. We were the same age but we were not built the same. You would have S if we had been caught. That run to the border is still the single most difficult thing I have ever done in my entire life. You wouldn't have made it, you didn't have the stamina. I was your support senpai. Maki said sadly, I was the one that was supposed to be your assistance. I was the only ally you had in the middle of the most terrible conditions a ninja could be sent into, and I was sitting at home while you were running for your life and losing your personality. Sai hadn't said anything, but he knew that if anyone was going to cheer her up and bring some bright surroundings to his team it was going to be him, because Sai sure as hell wasn't going to do it, even if he had been making a concerted effort in Konoha to get along with Naruto's graduating class and friends. Naruto put a hand on her shoulder. I told you already not to worry about that. If me leaving you alone like that was really so lonely for you, I'm sorry, Maki-chan. But you can get to know me now. We can get to be friends now, the way we could have been when we were kids if you would have said more than 5 words at a time to me. Maki turned away from her team leader with a rather sheepish look on her face. I didn't know what to say to you. I was just a little girl, what did we have to talk about? All we did was train and fight and do missions. Naruto laughed at the expression on her face, getting her to blush, or, someone missed a few emotional conditioning classes, didn't she? Naruto tried to ruffle her hair, prompting her to take a swing at him. Well, I'm helping Sai get a life and I think that it's going to be way easier to help you get one. You're sweet and actually have a sense of humor that doesn't make me think I'm talking to a brick wall, Sai. He turned towards the teen in question who didn't seem to even care about the conversation. Sai turned towards Naruto with his forced-looking smile. I'm sorry, senpai, did you say something? Naruto gave him a S look and pointed at him. You do not take personality pointers from Kakashi-sensei. That only works if you have boatloads of charisma to back it up with. You obviously don't. He then let off a sigh. It's a shame that you don't respect your senpai Sai. I do respect you, Sai said admittedly. Do you want me to go to the mission procedure way of addressing you? Naruto was quick to turn that option down. No. Hell no. Speak the way you want to. This is fine. I was just messing with you, Sai. Sai actually gave him a real smile this time. I was messing with you too, Naruto-senpai. Maki actually laughed a little at the stunned expression on Naruto's face as it morphed into a grin. Did Sai just make a joke? A non-sarcastic, non-biting joke. I'm so proud of my kuhai. You're actually starting to come along a little bit. He placed an arm over his shoulder and whispered into his ear. Now the next step is to attempt to actively hook you up with a woman. Sai simply blinked blankly in confusion. XXX. With Sasuke and Sugetsu, seas south of Nami no Kuni. Sasuke and Sugetsu were walking on the surface of the water at a rather leisurely pace for being in the middle of the ocean. Mind if I ask you something? Sugetsu said to Sasuke, a curious tint in his voice. Sasuke shrugged. Go for it. Taking that as his cue, Sugetsu threw his question out there. Why are you rounding all of us up anyway? Sasuke didn't really see the harm in letting him know what he needed him and the others for, so he answered him. I've got a certain plan I want to carry out. It would be way smoother if I had a full platoon because the targets are notoriously powerful. So why me? Sugetsu wondered. I've been planning this for a long time. Sasuke admitted to his sword-wielding ally. I had you all picked out a long time ago. You all have traits that can help me deal with the most irksome of the opponents I plan on going after. Hey, I got you, Sugetsu said as he took one of the multiple water bottles strapped to himself off for a sip. So why Karen? She's totally devoted to Orochimaru unlike the rest of us. She's the last person I'd try convincing to go along if I were you. We were both experimented on a lot, and plus she's got ass attitude. Sasuke looked over at his teammate for the time being. I'll admit that there are plenty of strong shinobi that I could have recruited easily, but she's got unique abilities and I need her help. Sugetsu chuckled as an island came into sight for them both. Well, she's unique, I'll give her that. XXX. With Naruto, Sai, and Maki, seas heading towards Mizu no Kuni. Why are we coming to this country, Naruto-senpai? Maki asked as she held onto Naruto's torso. She and Naruto were riding atop a single of Sai's birds as the artistic ninja himself led the way on his own ride. Do you really think that coming here will help you learn anything about your biju? Naruto frowned. It might and it might not. It serves two purposes. I need to keep moving and make it difficult to find me and track me down, and I need to find out what I can about controlling the Kyuubi. He looked back at the girl clinging to him tightly. You know that the Yondai Mizukage was Yagura, the Jinchuriki of the Sanbi no Kyode game, three-tailed giant turtle. Well, he's S, so now I'm going to try and speak to the Godai Mizukage under the guise of my mission of diplomacy. Sai turned around as he continued steering his bird, so this is basically espionage. Naruto shook his head. Hell no, we're not risking that here. We're miles away from home on a damn island, isolated from any potential safe haven by an entire ocean. What's wrong with you? He asked indignantly to Sai, who shrugged and turned back around. We're just going to try to convince them to help us out and maybe even join the alliance against Akatsuki. No spying or any kind of underhanded activities. Sometimes being straightforward is the best way to get something. Apparently Kirigakure had been extremely receptive when Konoha had reached out to them years ago. Naruto himself had never been to the villages that had been when he had diverted his own destination towards Uzushiogakure and had fought Deodara and Sasori. But the point was, the groundwork had been laid down already for Naruto to attempt to finish building the relationship between the two villages. He was very young, but as the recently revealed Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, the student of Jiraiya, and a Junin-level shinobi, he should have had enough prestige to his name to warrant a meeting with the Mizukage. And if he didn't, then he could always reveal that last little secret of himself that he had yet to expose, but he still couldn't care any less about it. Maybe being the Yondaime Hokage's son would grease the wheels enough to get his foot in the door. He hadn't used his old man's fame since he found out about it, and the people that actually knew about it could be counted on two hands, and they weren't exactly going to shout it from the rooftops themselves. No one in the elemental nations was aware of this yet. Maybe it was time for a little nepotism based from his lineage for once. Politics were AB, why did he want to be Hokage again? Oh yeah, because Danzo entrusted it to him, damn it. He was a fighter, not a politician. Tell him to storm a fortress, fine. Tell him to coerce information that could be construed as tightly kept with nothing more than his words and personality, he was going to have a little bit of a harder time with that one. Oh well, at least during his stay he might be able to finish the next thing he was training on. Had he mastered it before his battle against Conan, he might have been able to finish her off and get to Jiraiya faster, then none of this would have been necessary. If he had to abruptly leave this place, then he knew he could hunker down in Kumogakure for a while, since the entire village owed him some serious graud for how he saved Yugito and beat 2 invading Akatsuki members in the process. Sai spoke up after hearing Naruto's plan of action. Right, or we can grab a high-ranking Kiri ninja, get the information from him, get Maki-san to make him think the entire interrogation was a dream, put him back where we got him and leave. Naruto rolled his eyes. There are about 7 different problems that could start because of that, the least pressing of which being that we and the shot of an alliance is screwed forever. Stop thinking like a Black Ops specialist and start thinking like Danzo Gigi. If I could get over to your bird without falling into the ocean, I would SU. What do you mean, think like Danzo-sama, Naruto-senpai? Maki asked him. Naruto smiled, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. We're not going to do that, that's stupid when we could just talk to someone and get the same information that way, minus the tea and prolonged chase across the entire country. Maybe I can sweeten the deal for them too, give them an incentive to help us, a service for another. Danzo Gigi style diplomacy. The wheels in Naruto's brain were turning, trying to come up with an argument to allow Kiri to assist them. XXX. With Sasuke and Sugetsu, Orochimaru's southern island base. The 2 young shinobi walked through the halls of the base, a prison where many of Orochimaru's more prominent prospects for experimentation were kept. As they walked, some of the prisoners took note of the clan crest on the back of Sasuke's clothing. That's Sasuke Uchiha, what's he doing here without Orochimaru? The rumor must be true. Another prisoner said excitedly, yeah. He beat Orochimaru and came to free us. A more cynical prisoner shot the man's hopes down, get real you idiot. There's no way Orochimaru is S. Eventually the 2 were stopped by a girl their age with red eyes and red hair, one side rather short, pointy and unkempt, the other side long, straight, and combed. She had glasses, a zip-up lavender top with the bottom unzipped to reveal her belly button, and short black shorts. She also wore long black thigh-level stockings and sandals. I knew it. She said, you're alone Sasuke, so it's true. Sugetsu looked between Sasuke and the girl with an annoyed expression. Oh, so I guess I'm not here now or something. Anyway, Sasuke's got a proposition for you. Can we sit somewhere and talk? Walking all this way after so long stuck in a tank is on the legs, and I don't feel like standing around while you 2 talk. After she led him to her office and the 2 travelers were able to take a seat, Sasuke got right to the point. Come with me, Karen, I need you. What? She said in shock. Why do I need to go anywhere? I'm in charge of this place. Sasuke leaned back in his seat. Orochimaru is out of the picture now. Who would you be keeping watch of this place for? Karen frowned. Well, what's going to happen to all of the prisoners? Sasuke gestured his head towards Sugetsu. Sugetsu, go free all of the prisoners. He ignored the look on Karen's face. Sugetsu stood up and walked out of the room, still acting like the boss. Don't you dare. Karen shouted at Sugetsu, who was at the door, however he was ignoring her all the way. What possible reason would you have to keep them around? Sasuke asked her. There's no reason to keep them around. I still refuse. Karen said vehemently, no willing to budge on the matter at all. Besides, it's not like I'm under any obligation to follow you around. Why would I even go? Sasuke let out a sigh. Fine, if you feel that strongly, then I'll go get someone else. Before he could get up to leave, Karen moved to shut the door as Sugetsu had since left the room. I'll come. She said, her attitude doing a complete 180 from before. She took off her glasses in front of a confused, but still rather uncaring Sasuke and sat next to him, her face not too far from his. If you really need my help, I'll go with you. Sasuke turned towards her, and this was brought on how. You changed your mind pretty quickly. I'm tired of standing guard over this place, she said rather breathily as the sounds of someone turning a locked doorknob let her know that Sugetsu was back. Knowing this, she decided to go for the K as she leaned her body against Sasuke. Will you back off, damn it? Sasuke said as he placed an arm between them. Karen kept trying to scoot closer. Come on, we don't have to take stupid Sugetsu either. All we need is each other. Suddenly the door was open, revealing Sugetsu with Kubikiri about you. Come on Sasuke, let's go. Karen clearly doesn't want to go with us. Actually, she changed her mind. Sasuke informed him. I did not. She frantically backpedaled. I just need to go in the same direction you two are going. It's purely coincidental. Once again her change in demeanor forced Sasuke to raise an eyebrow in wonder. Lucky us then. Sugetsu quipped as he placed the large sword of his back onto his back. I guess you'll be with us for a little while then. So that means that Juugo is the last one we need to get. Juugo. Karen repeated in surprise. You're taking him along too. He's in the north hideout. I know where he is. Sasuke said as he finally stood up. It's time to go get him. Karen shook her head. You know that if that's where we're going to be the second we walk in. I've only seen it on one of Orochimaru's maps. Sugetsu said as they both began following Sasuke outside. Is it really that dangerous? Karen placed a hand on her hip. The North Hideout is no ordinary place. It was the main area for Orochimaru's experimentation. It's nothing more than a nest of horrible, unnatural monsters. Sugetsu smirked and took one of his water bottles off. Sounds like a blast to me. He said before taking a drink, it doesn't matter what we think about it anyway. Sasuke here's already decided on who he wants and how he's going to get them. We're here, aren't we? Karen shook her head again. I really don't like this. Juugo is not a normal person. None of us are normal. Sasuke commented absently. I don't care how off balance the guy is as long as he can do his job, and I can assure you he can do his job just fine. XXX. Kirigakure no Sato, Mizukage's office. A robed figure sat at the desk in the room as a Kiri ninja knocked and entered. Mizukage-sama, there are guests waiting at the main gate. A group of ninja from Konohagakure are here for what the leader called a diplomatic meeting with you of great importance. What are your orders? A diplomatic group from Konoha. A female's voice said from underneath the robes and hat as a smirk came to a pair of lips covered with dark blue lipstick, and we never even received a message from them this time. How rude. The Mizukage let out a small laugh. It doesn't matter. I'll allow them in to see me, just send Ao and Chujiro in just in case. The Kiri ninja bowed to her before leaving the room swiftly, shutting the door behind him and leaving her alone. I wonder what this could be all about. She said to herself as she prepared for a meeting with the foreign shinobi. Jutsu list. Watashi no Yujin no Teki, enemy of my friend. B rank Genjutsu, supplementary. Using a diversion to activate the jutsu, the user will project an image to trick a shinobi into believing that another person has taken their form right down to the appearance, voice, even the weaponry. If the scapegoat is carrying anything can be used as a template to work against the victim of the genjutsu. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.